Contractions just aren't painful to me, is what I've discovered.
Well, that's amazing.
Yes, they're very intense. And I get to a point where like I am vocal and I'm working through them, but they're not like, I'm not in pain when I'm experiencing them.
I'm Kayla Heeter, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 6 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I hope your week is going great so far. Happy Monday. I hope all is well. Say a little prayer for my husband, who is probably completely zonked and exhausted because he's actually, he's been out of town all weekend at like a retreat for another podcast that he's a part of. And when he gets back late tonight, I'm recording this, the day before. When he gets back super late tonight, he will be up all night editing this podcast so that you guys can listen to it. So may it be worth it, husband. I pray that your sleep deprivation is not in vain and that the Holy Spirit works through this birth story and touches the lives of many, many women out there. So pray for Chris for supernatural energy, and thank you, Jesus, for his safe return and for this podcast. So yeah, I've been not solo this weekend, but without my husband this weekend. I have 4 of my 6 kids. He took 2 of the 6. So 4 stayed back with me. And that's been an interesting dynamic. He took the middles and I have the bigs and the babies. So the 2 oldest and the 2 youngest were here with me. And I don't think we've ever had that dynamic before. So that's been kind of fun, been kind of interesting to shake things up a bit. But yeah, it was great. We had a great weekend and looking forward very much so to seeing them late tonight when they get home though. Okay, I did want to mention real quick that if you were loving this podcast, thinking of a way that you could help this podcast, the simplest thing you could do is to share it, to share this podcast with people that you know, women that you know, whether they are newly married and thinking about having kids, or they maybe already have some babies, or they're pregnant, or whatever the situation is. I just would love if you could share this podcast with some of your friends. Maybe pick a favorite episode or 2, or just share the show in general and let them kind of cherry pick episodes based on the title. But we would love if you could share. I don't do any marketing for this podcast. It's not getting advertised anywhere other than just through the podcast platforms themselves when people search for it. So we would love for more women and families to be able to benefit from these birth stories. So if you could share them, I think the best way to do it really is to like text the link to a friend, or you could also post a link of a favorite episode in your social media stories, like your Instagram story or your Facebook story or something, just sharing about the podcast. I would be absolutely delighted and be so happy if you could just spread the word. It's benefiting so many women already, but I know it could benefit that many more women out there if just all of you took the time to share with 1 or 2 people this podcast, then it would like double or triple the audience overnight so that they could benefit from it as well. So I haven't mentioned that in a while. So I would really love if y'all could share this with some friends and family members. That would mean the world to my husband and I, and could definitely have an impact on their future births. Okay, we're about to jump in to this week's episode. Remember, this week is part 2 of a 2-part story. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode yet, go back and listen to part 1 from last week of Rebekah's story, because this week we are going to dive into part 2. After a very poor experience at the hospital with her first baby, Rebekah would be choosing home birth from this point on. She did not want a repeat of her first birth and especially her first postpartum. Thankfully, she was able to find a home birth midwife in her area that she jived with and would go on to have 2 beautiful home births, while also having to address the anxieties from her first birth head on when it came to pushing. But what did she learn? God will meet you where you are. God answers prayers. God is faithful, and He can be trusted, especially when it comes to birth.
We went on vacation. So she's born in January. In September, we go on vacation and my cycle comes back. And I was not expecting that to happen because I was still feeding her once or twice at night. So my cycle comes back and they're like 8-week long cycles. They're very, very long. And in December, I got pregnant with our second.
When she was, let's see, how old was she then? Like 10 months, 11 months?
She was 11 months. We found out that I was pregnant the week before she turned 1.
Aw.
Yeah. And I cried. I was not expecting that. I was like, this is not what we were thinking. We were thinking 2 years from now, get things figured out and it's situated. My husband was not ready for another baby. We were very much trying to not get pregnant. And we're so thankful that we did get pregnant because George is just such a delight. Like he's a 2.5-year-old little boy now. So he's a lot harder now than he was.
I get it. I have a 2.5-year-old little boy too. I totally get it. I guess my initial thought is you just went through all that trauma with your birth experience specifically. It didn't sound like it was your pregnancy as much as it was the birth itself. Then obviously the hospital stay afterwards, that was horrible. So how did that affect your birth choices second time around?
So at this point, I had a couple friends who had home births. And I always wanted a home birth, but I just wasn't certain, 1, where to look for a midwife, and 2, I was very concerned about how my body would handle labor because of the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So this time I asked, like all of my friends that had home births all use the same midwife. So I asked them for her information, and Tim was like all for a home birth. He was like, that sounds great. He has 0 issues with that. It was not like I had to convince him to be okay with it or anything like that. He was 100% on board. So when I found out I was pregnant that same month, so January, I was like, I only know of 2 midwives in the area, and one is quite expensive and one is less expensive. And she's the one that all of my friends use. So I reached out to her, and her name is Wantina. Her business name is Mama's Midwife, and she's amazing. I love her. So she did a phone interview with me, and at that point I was like, I just feel so comfortable with her that this made an easy transition for us. So we booked her. And I, at this time, did not know that she had just hired a second midwife who quit after she had taken on more patients than she normally would.
Oh.
So, and she's also a teaching midwife. So she had taken on like 1 or 2 more students than she normally would. And those were all contracts that she couldn't just break. And so she was not very present during my prenatal care with him. There was lots of times where it would be one of her students only in my prenatal appointments, or it would be her in and out of the appointment a lot. And I had just gone with a hospital. So like I had an hour to sit there and talk to people. It didn't bother me really at all that I wasn't getting a ton of face-to-face time with the midwife. I knew she'd be there for my birth, and that was really what was important to me. So again, this time didn't take any birth classes, didn't do anything extra, didn't hire a doula, didn't do any of those things. We were in a financial position where like hiring a doula would have been even more just emotionally taxing and financially taxing, that it wouldn't have, I would have felt so bad, so guilty having hired a doula. My pregnancy with him was very easy. I think it was the easiest. It was a hard first trimester. I was more sick with him and like very, very nauseous. But I felt pretty good, like physically. I think I was in pretty good condition when I got pregnant with him, that it didn't feel so hard having a toddler and being pregnant. And I was breastfeeding Esther still until I was out of the first trimester, only like once a day, but still, I was still breastfeeding her. So the rest of my pregnancy went really well. Honestly, that one's a big blur. I don't remember a lot of my pregnancy with him. There was just so much going on with having a toddler. That summer, I was pregnant with him. So 2023, friends of ours asked if they could move in with us after we had our baby, because they had just gotten kicked out of the missions field that they were in because the church that sent them, there was a whole big thing that happened. So towards the end of my pregnancy, I was just like, let's get this baby out so we can get to the next thing, so we can get the house ready for our friends to move in and all of these things. And they were moving in with 2 little kids. So I thought my due date the whole time with him was September 30th. And my midwife had September 22nd. So that's a pretty decent gap. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't really change that much when you're having a home birth. But I started having a lot of anxiety towards the end, because I was like, what if he has a dystocia? I don't want to experience that again. That was very scary the last time, and just all of the complications that came afterwards. I started having a lot of anxiety about that, as well as just being like, we have friends moving in with us and all of these things, just thinking about all of the next steps, not being present at the end. I think I just like totally dissociated from my 3rd trimester. So I go in and she checks me and I was at a 4. I think this was around September 20th. I was about a 4. I wasn't experiencing very many contractions. Like, I'd have a few Braxton Hicks contractions if I walked around Costco or went to the zoo or something like that. But they would all subside very easily. So then there was one weekend, my husband and I were having some adult time, and I woke up having contractions, and I would have contractions for about an hour. They'd be lasting a minute. They would be very intense. And then at the moment they got 5 minutes apart, they would all stop. And so I was getting so frustrated. That was happening so many times. There was one night I even texted Wantina and I was like, hey, having contractions, this is what's going on, 5 minutes apart. And she was like, okay, just let me know if they get more intense. And then I told her it all stopped. I'm going to bed. So she offered to come by the next day and check me. And so I was still a 4. And she was like, why don't you come to your next appointment? We'll talk about what to do next. But like, you can be a 4 for however long you need to be. She's like, I'm not feeling any cervical lip or anything like that. She's like, you're just staying at a 4. And I was like, okay. I had the worst cramping running down like my upper thighs. The whole last 2 weeks of my pregnancy with him, I just was like very crampy in my thigh muscles, which I was not prepared for. So I really wanted to have a water birth. Those were all things that were important to me. And so if I get to my next appointment with her and she was like, you're still a 4. How do you feel about a membrane sweep? We don't have to, but at this point it's September 26th. And I was like, just do the sweep. let's see what happens. If I don't go into labor, I don't go into labor. If I do, then great. My mom is flying into town from Florida tonight, September 26th, that night. And I was really excited. I was like, let's just see if we can get labor started. So she does the sweep, and there's bloody show with the sweep. And she's like, let's just try to take it easy, but don't lay around. Like, go for a walk, do regular household things. Don't push yourself too hard. And like, if you can take a nap, take a nap. So I had contractions like crazy that day. They were all over the place. I had a contraction for a minute and like 45 seconds. And then I wouldn't have another one for like 3 hours. And then I would have a bunch of them really close together. And then they were just all over the place. So Wantina, I had texted her and I was like, they're not even timeable. I can't even keep up with them. And I'm having a hard time feeling them. So I don't think that this worked. And she's like, well, what if I stop by? Your body is obviously trying to go into labor. I can give you an herb that if your body is ready to go into labor, it will help get it into labor. And if not, then nothing will happen. She's like, I'd rather do that than try castor oil or anything like that. So she brings this cotton root, which is the herb, and I start taking that.
In like a tincture form?
Yeah, in a tincture form. And so I started taking that around 10 or 11. My mom had just gotten into town, and I immediately started having more consistent, strong contractions. So around midnight, we all go to bed, and I'm still taking this tincture because you're supposed to take it for like 4 hours. And at 12:30ish, I wake up and I was like, okay, I'm actually in labor. Oh, so this is the 26th. So all of that happened on September 25th. This is the 26th.
Okay.
And so I texted her and I was like, I'm having contractions. And they're like very timeable, very intense. I'm not really timing them because I can't keep up with thinking about the tincture and the timing and all of that. And she's like, okay, text me in about an hour and let me know where you are from there.
So at this point, I'm curious what you thought the contractions felt like compared to your first labor.
I could feel them. They still weren't painful. So I can feel like the intensity of them, but they don't. And I learned this with my most previous birth. Contractions just aren't painful to me, is what I've discovered.
Well, that's amazing.
Yes, they're very intense. And I get to a point where like I am vocal and I'm working through them, but they're not like, I'm not in pain when I'm experiencing them. So everyone I know talks about how hard they are and how painful they are. And I don't know how, I can't relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
But they are very intense. And I definitely, with George's birth, there were a few contractions that I would consider painful, but they weren't, it would be like 10 seconds of pain that I was like, it doesn't even really feel like much. So when I ended up texting Wantina and I was like, hey, I am really starting to feel them again. And like, they're very consistent now. I think you might want to come over. So she does come and she's a teaching midwife. So she always has a student with her. And so she brings her whole team of people, and I was not expecting them to take pictures, but they did take a few pictures that I really, really appreciated having. And so she gets there and she blows up the pool, gets it filled. My husband and I are laboring, and I get in the water and everything stopped. Everything stopped. And I was just like talking normal, having a great time. And I was like, this feels like nothing's happening now. So we get back out, and the student midwife was like, hey, why don't you go sit on the toilet and see if we can like go to the bathroom, see if we can get things picking back up again since the water stopped everything. So I labored on the toilet for probably an hour and a half at that point. And then I started really vocalizing.
So it started up again.
Yes. And then when it started up, it was like really hitting at that point. So she offers to check me. She's like, do you just want me to see where we're at? We knew you started at a 4. Do we want to see where you're at? So I lay down and she checks me and she's like, you're a 10. You can start pushing or you can wait. And I was like, I want to wait until I can feel him lower. So we get back in the pool. Big mistake. I should not have gotten back in the water. I was just so determined. I was like, I will have this baby in the water.
Whether you're expecting your first baby or hoping for a different birth experience this time around, the Surrendered Birth course is a comprehensive Christian childbirth course designed to prepare you for pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding while keeping Jesus at the center of it all. With over 12 hours of on-demand content, you'll learn how to make informed decisions, understand your options, and approach birth with confidence instead of fear. Whether you're planning a hospital birth, birth center birth, or home birth, this course will equip you with the knowledge you need and encourage you to surrender your plans to God. To learn more, read testimonials, or enroll, click the link in the show notes.
I will have this baby in the water. And I had to get back out. My husband was like, hey, this is not effective. You're not pushing effectively. You're frustrated. Why don't we get out? And I was like, I don't want to get out yet. I'm not ready to make that decision. So I tried pushing for like 5 more minutes in there. And I was like, all right, I'll get out. And so they had me sit back down on the toilet and they were like, we're going to try this again. So I'm sitting there, and this is when all of the fear of a dystocia, him not breathing, all of these things just start hitting me like a ton of bricks. And I didn't feel like I hit transition until this point. Like, you know, the whole I can't do this mindset, that did not hit me until I'm sitting on the toilet getting ready to push this time. And I just was like looking at Tim, and I was like, what if he gets stuck? All of these questions just started hitting me. And Wantina looks at me and she's like, you vocalize what you need to vocalize. He's not going to get stuck. He's going to be okay. You're going to have a baby and he's going to come very quickly. And I was like, okay. And I am about to push. And I was like, can someone please pray? Just pray. And so one of the students that was there, she is Jewish, and she started praying, and my husband started praying. And within like 2 minutes, I had the fetal ejection reflex. They stand me up off the toilet, and that kid came flying out of me. And I pushed so hard and so fast that I had a 3-degree tear. And that time I knew it. I felt it. I was like, I just tore myself up so bad. I lost complete control pushing and just was like, he's coming out, and he's coming out now. So they sit me back down, and I'm holding him, and they're doing all of like the immediate baby care, sitting on the toilet. And it was so sweet just having that baby and knowing that he was born under prayer. And that was not something I experienced in the hospital. And then they get me up and they walk me to the bed. And that's where the placenta is born, which birthing your placenta is like such a great feeling. So much relief after that thing comes out.
Yeah.
And they showed it to me, and they do all of the checks and everything. And she looks at me and she's like, this is definitely a 3rd, but luckily for you, I'm really good at stitching these up. So you do the lidocaine, and to get me stitched back up, my mom comes in because she had just gotten in town right before that. She comes in and she holds him like right after they get me stitched up and everything. They do all of the weight checks and everything. And he was 8'3", which I was kind of surprised because I don't get that big. My belly doesn't get that big when I'm having a baby, that I was not expecting an 8-pound, 3-ounce baby.
How big was Esther?
Esther was 7:15, and she was 5 days post her due date. And then George was 8:3, and he was either several days post his due date or like 4 days
or a few
early.
Days before. Yeah.
So
they're not that far in weight, like just a few ounces.
Correct. They aren't. So he's born and everything is great. And that postpartum, I was in a lot more pain, but emotionally, so much better. I was so much more clear-headed and just not emotional. I mean, I had the dips and things like that you have, but I think I cried 3 times postpartum with George, and with Esther, I cried every day. And having my mom there immediately was really helpful. But yeah, it was such an easy adjustment. Like, I'm so incredibly thankful for that. I really needed that after having Esther. And yeah, he was an easy baby. He nursed really well. He actually nursed so well that he built muscle in his lip where he had a lip tie. So we have major lip tie, like oral tie issues. And he was very food motivated. He had a very severe lip tie and a very severe tongue tie, and we couldn't get into the dentist to get it taken care of right away. So he started like bruising me immediately. And he ended up pulling my nipple through a nipple guard one day because he sucked so hard. He just sucked it right through. And had I not had Silverettes, to anyone listening, if you're planning on breastfeeding, get you some Silverettes, because those things saved my nipples. They went totally back to normal after using Silverettes. And getting the oral ties revised made everything so much better. But other than that, there was no postpartum hardship. Like, I mean, postpartum is hard, but no like extreme anxiety, extreme sadness, or any of that. I did have a 3rd-degree tear though, so it made walking around and doing anything hard. Wantina told me, she's like, I don't want you walking downstairs until you're 2 weeks postpartum. Like, you should not be going downstairs. So I didn't do laundry for a very long time. And yeah, it was that was hard. Like, learning how to move around without pulling stitches was really not ideal. And then just having the breastfeeding pain was hard as well. But those were my 2 things that were, I could do that so much better than the anxiety that I felt with Esther.
Yeah. Well, and everyone around you in your immediate postpartum, first of all, you weren't alone. So that was helpful. And second of all, they were there encouraging you and supporting you and like being nice to you and telling you and affirming you how great everything was, unlike your first time where you were alone and everyone there is like scaring you.
Yeah.
So yes, night and day.
Absolutely. And we did have family stay with us when we had Esther. I just was like so emotionally out of it that not everything that was helpful didn't feel helpful. Like, looking back, there were definitely helpful things that were being done. I just was so anxious about everything. I was like, I don't want anyone to give her a bottle because then I'm never going to be able to breastfeed. I don't want anyone to hold her and take her so I can get an extra couple hours of sleep, because what if I miss out on something? She's a newborn. What is she going to do? Like,
Right.
And all of that went away with George. But you're right. Being able to sleep in my bed immediately and not have an injection in my hip bones, my pelvis, like, I didn't have any of the heart issues. I didn't have any of the weird things happen with like my tongue tingling or any of that after I had George. So that made a huge impact on the next 3 months of my life.
Yeah.
So that was him. And then we agreed we're not getting pregnant for quite a while. Like, I need a break. We need to adjust to
2 under 2.
us and 2 under 2 and all of those things. So while I was pregnant with George, I was very stressed out. Like, our living situation wasn't bad. It was hard and I was stressed out. So I ended up having, like, my body just stopped producing milk. So he got weaned way sooner than I would have liked. I also was not eating the greatest. So that made me really sad. But
So how old was he?
He was 9 months when I weaned him. Yeah. So not a huge deal, but I just was like, Esther got so much more in my time than you did. And I felt a little guilty about that. But
yeah.
Then we went through some, like, really hard things last year that led to us being like, we're ready to have another baby. We knew that about 2 years we would probably try for another baby, but there was a lot of just hard things going on in our life that we were ready for something happy and good. So we ended up getting pregnant in July of last year, and getting pregnant has always been pretty easy for me. So far, I don't know if we'll have any more, but we'll see what happens. But my sister-in-law, my husband's sister moved in with us about 2 years ago now, I guess. And she ended up getting married last September. And so I guess I got pregnant in August. And we found out that I was expecting Gideon the week before her wedding, that I was planning and coordinating with one of my friends. Thankfully, I was like 5 weeks pregnant, so I knew I wasn't going to have any of the early trimester symptoms or any of that. But I was just like, because I've had a miscarriage, I was a little bit anxious, and I just expect to bleed, even though I know that I most likely won't. And this pregnancy, I got the sickest I have ever been, like close to hyperemesis, but it wasn't really hyperemesis. I did lose weight that I did not need to lose. And so we did choose to use the same midwife that delivered George. So we go back to her, and she ends up like being concerned about my weight loss. And she was like, we should medicate you. You need to be able to keep something down because you already don't weigh that much. So they did put me on an anti-nausea medication, not Zofran, but another one. My husband was not super happy about the one that they put me on because of the symptoms, but it's safer than Zofran with the for being pregnant.
Was it diclegis?
It was not diclegis.
Finnegan?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, I probably know which one's been through them all. Finnegan, that one makes you really tired, very sleepy, like knocks you off your butt, honestly.
Yes. So I had to be very picky about when I used it, when I took it, and at what time, because if Tim was at work, I didn't have anyone here to help me with the kids if I took it and needed to fall asleep. So they medicated me, and I ended up, as soon as I hit 13 weeks, it goes away. The nausea totally goes away. So I knew that was going to get better. It just was really hard. And I think a big part of it was I was not eating well while I was planning this wedding and doing all of those things. I knew I should have been eating better. I just wasn't. So yeah, then I went in and I had a really normal second trimester, felt really good, ate really well. I do get really bad sciatica while I'm pregnant. And with him, it started at like 16 weeks. And so I started pelvic floor therapy, and that helped a lot. And then it slowly started to not be so helpful. By the time I hit my third trimester, I was just like, that sciatica was so bad There were days I could not even walk out to our chicken coop to get the eggs. I was like, I'm stuck. I'm just here. Chiropractic care didn't help. Massage didn't help. So that was really frustrating. But at the same time, I was like, if this is the worst it is, then that's okay. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very standard pregnancy other than the sciatica. So the way that labor started, and the kids were so excited. There's one day we found out what we were having, and Esther told us, she's like, if it's a boy, I'm going to cry. I really want a sister. So we told her that it was a boy. She did not cry, and she was very happy. In my side of the family, we are the only ones with boys. Everyone else has all girls. And so she sees the sister relationship that people have, and she wants that really bad. But so far she just has brothers. And she's a good big sister for brothers. She's rough and tumble and able to keep up with them. So I think that's good. But this time I decided, I was like, I really want to spend more time praying about what I want out of this birth, because I would pray for safety and for things to go well and that God would be in control and to give me peace and comfort, but I didn't really pray for specifics. And it was one of the episodes in your podcast, one of the ladies was talking about her mother's blessing that she had, that I was like, oh, I can really pray in detail about what my heart desires for this birth. There's no guarantee that it will happen, but I can go and ask God for all of these things. And that's not bad that I'm vocalizing that. Not that I thought that it was, I just didn't really think about being that specific. So I was very thankful I listened to that podcast when I did, because it changed the way that I started praying for my labor. But this pregnancy, I did have, like, Wantina was way more present. And she was at every single prenatal appointment except maybe one. And if she wasn't at that one, it's because she was at a birth or something like that. But she was very present, very hands-on, kind of changed up the way that she did things a little bit to be able to be more present with her patients, which I'm very thankful for. And I was like, this is what I thought I was getting last time, and I'm just getting it later, and that's okay. But she's a very good midwife, and she does breech twins. She's very comfortable doing all of those things. So I have a lot of trust in her ability, whether or not she's at every single prenatal appointment or not. I started praying 3 very specific things. And I was like, I really wanted to have a successful water birth. And I really wanted to not tear at all. And the third thing that I had started praying for was that the right people that I would feel safe with would be at the birth. Because there was one student that I didn't really jive well with. Like, she wasn't a bad student. She just kind of annoyed me every now and again. And I was like, I would rather her not be there. And I know I could have asked, but I was like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm pretty much a bulldog for everyone but myself. I will go to bat for everyone but myself. So my husband was like, just ask her, just tell her that you'd rather have a different student. And I was like, it's fine. I don't really need one. It'll be okay. So I just started praying that the right student would be there. And so I started praying all of that at around, I think I was around 30 weeks when I started being that specific, maybe a little bit more. But I started having, like, actual, for real contractions at 34 weeks. And I was like, I can't have a baby that early.
Yeah.
In Kentucky, like, it's illegal for her to show up to deliver a baby before 36 weeks. So I was like, I have to make it to 36 weeks. So we cut out everything that would stimulate labor, because I was worried, like drinking raspberry leaf tea would cause contractions. Laying down would cause contractions. Standing up would cause contractions. It was very weird. I had not experienced contractions that early.
Yeah.
And so, and they were very sporadic. So like I couldn't really time them. I didn't think I was going into preterm labor, but I was very like, I don't want to do anything that will push me into preterm labor.
Yeah.
And then by the time I hit 36 weeks, all of those contractions went away, which I knew was going to happen. So I'm having contractions from like 34 weeks to 36 weeks, and then they disappear. And I make it to 38 weeks. I go to my appointment, and they check me, and I'm a 2. And the reason they checked me that time was I was like, I started having contractions again. And I was like, they're crazy. Like, I'm feeling them in my cervix. I know it's doing something, and I need to know type of a person. So I would feel more paranoid if I hadn't gotten checked. So they checked me, and I was at a 2. And she tells me, she's like, you are at a 2, but you're super stretchy, like very stretchy. And I was like, okay. So then that was a Tuesday. And on a Thursday, I am doing breakfast with the kids, and I feel wet. And I was like, why do I feel wet? This is weird. So I go and I check. And in the birth kit that she sends home with you, she has amniotic fluid testing strips or swabs. So I use one, and it starts to change color. So I tell her, I was like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not having any contractions again, but I think that my water is broken, or something is happening, because there's amniotic fluid. And I send her a picture, and she's like, okay, I'm at the office. Keep me updated as to what's going on. She's like, if nothing changes by tomorrow, then I want you to come to the office. And nothing happened. I did not have a single contraction.
But did you keep leaking fluid?
No.
No, so it's just like the one time.
Just the one time.
Okay.
I was so frustrated at that point. I was like, oh my gosh, come on, body. Just, if you're don't tease me like this.
And you were 36 and some change?
I was 38 weeks at that point.
Sorry.
Yeah. So which I'm, again, not used to really feeling much at this point, or to have those types of things happen. So I go in to Tina's office the next day, and she checks me again and feels my bag. And she's like, 1, you're a 4. So I dilated 2 centimeters in 2 days. And then she was like, also, what she thinks happened was there was a bubble on the outside of my bag that broke, or it tore a tiny bit and resealed itself. But she's like, your bag is still fully intact. So we don't have to worry about you being on a timer or anything like that, or like trying to get labor started. She was like, so just keep doing what you're doing. And she's like, if this weekend you feel like you just can't take it anymore, we can talk about cotton root again, because we were trying, my husband took off the entire month of May. So to be able to be with us, to help with that transition, he used a lot of vacation time to be able to do that. And I'm so thankful that he did, but we were trying really hard to push it to as far as we could, because we didn't want him he already took off all that time. We didn't want him to have to take off more time as well.
So when is this happening right now? The 38 weeks? And
this is like the second to last week of April.
Okay.
So this is all happening like the week of the 20th. We wanted to push it at least to that weekend if we could. And she was like, with what your body is doing, you're going into labor soon. We just don't want to push it too far. So I went back home and I felt so crampy that day because I had been checked and all of that. And that weekend I started having even more contractions, just random. And again, they're not they're not painful, but I can feel them. And this time I started to actually feel my cervix opening. Like I could feel the contractions in my cervix. I knew I was dilating more. I didn't need, it was very strange, but I didn't really think that they were that painful either. They were really, really intense. And I would have them very sporadically again. But every time I had them, they would be a minute and a half long.
Oh, yeah. So very effective.
Yes. Yes. And I knew that things were happening. Nothing, like I wasn't in labor. So we go through the weekend and she texted me and she's like, let me know Sunday if you want me to come give you cotton root. And we decided not to because we really wanted to try to push it as far as we could. So that's April 26th at that point. And I thought it would be fun if he was born on the 26th because George was born on the 26th. But I was also like, that's not important enough to force him out.
It. Yeah.
Especially, I'm not even 39 weeks yet. It's not that serious. I've lived being pregnant longer than this. I can keep going. It was what I had decided. And I just kept praying. I was like, God, please let me end this race well. Like, I don't want to be grumpy. I don't want to try to take control. I just want to trust you and end this race well. So I was just miserable. The sciatica, having all of those contractions, I was exhausted. And I was trying really hard not to let that exhaustion drive the seat of when this baby comes. So on April 27th, I went to bed at like 9:30. I was tired. I'd been having contractions off and on all day. And then I go to bed. I can't sleep. I get up and I'm just like done. I'm not really happy. I'm just like annoyed with my body. And I was like, I could have another week or two of this. And that realization just broke me. I didn't cry. I was just like, I don't want to do this for another 2 weeks. That just sounds not ideal. I'm already irritated and in pain, and doing this for much longer, I don't know how I'm supposed to do that. So I go back out, I sit on my ball, and my husband's awake watching TV, and he's supposed to work the next day. And I was like, it's another day, another shift day for you to go to, but at least soon you'll have multiple days off. Like his next shift day would have been May 1st, and he had taken off from the 4th on, which was the 4th was my due date, which my family is big Star Wars fans. They're all big Star Wars fans. So they were all really excited about that. Name him Lucas, and then you'll have George Lucas. So that was not going to happen. But anyway, it was just like a funny little thing that I thought was special. But I go to bed again, finally fall asleep at 11 o'clock, around that time. I remember that because my husband came to bed around 11, and I fell asleep pretty soon after that. 1:30, I wake up with the strongest contraction I have ever felt. So this is the 28th at this point. I had to get out of bed, like up on my knees and like breathe through it. And at that point, I was like, I'm just going to get out of bed. So I start walking around the house, contracting, and not consistently at all. But by the time I'm having another contraction, I'm like really breathing through it. So I walk around the house by myself for about an hour, sit on my ball for a little bit, and I go into our bedroom and I go to the bathroom, and it's 2:30, and I'm I have a contraction while sitting on the toilet and I'm moaning. I moaned so loud. My husband woke up and I could hear him starting to get dressed and move things around in our bedroom. I called the midwife. Praise God, she lives 5 minutes away from us.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, I call her. I'm like, hey, so I'm having contractions. They're not consistent, but when they are happening, they're a minute and a half, and I'm like really working through them. And she was like, okay, well, she had sent me home with a birth pool that she doesn't usually do this, but she had sent me home with a pool to set up just in case, because I was in labor technically for like 5 hours with George from start to finish. It wasn't, I was having contractions, but they, from when they were timeable to when he was born, it was 5 hours. And so she was like, and with Esther, I was in labor for 9 hours from start to finish. And so,
which is very quick for a first time mom. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, I'm concerned you might go quickly again. So we'll send you home with a pool. So she did. And then, I come out of the bathroom and I'm like moaning at the end of the bed. And I was like, hey, Tim, we should probably get our room set up because I'm having a baby tonight. And he was like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Didn't even need to talk to him about it. He was just already doing it. She gets there about 10 minutes later and she checks me and I was 9 centimeters. I would love to know where I was when I went to bed, because when I woke up, I was already in transition.
Yeah.
So she checks me, she calls her whole team to get there. And the student that showed up is one that I really liked. And I had only met her a couple of times, but I jived really well with her. So that was already answer to prayer number one. One of the students that I really liked was there, like a lot. And I get in they end up getting the pool set up, and I'm like moaning really, really loudly at this point. And they get the pool set up. I get in it, slows everything down. So I get back out and I just labor by the side of the pool. And I was not in pain because of the contractions. I could feel his shoulders moving down my uterus. Like I could feel them scraping. It was the weirdest thing. And then I, like, everywhere he was is where I was feeling pain. I wasn't feeling pain from a contraction. It was him moving lower that was causing me the pain. And so I labored from, at this point, 12:30 to 4:30-ish, maybe a little bit earlier than that. But she checked me at one point because I was like, if my bag is not thinning out enough to break on its own, I want you to break it. Like, not thinning out, but like if it still feels like it's really, really thick, because it was very thick when she had checked it prior, I was like, let me know and maybe we'll break my bags so that it can progress. So she checks me again and she's like, Becca, your bag is barely there. It's barely there. So she's like, why don't we get you back working with gravity? So I'm standing there holding on to Tim's shoulders, and they start putting Chuck's pads everywhere. Like I start grunting and bearing down a little bit. So they were like, hey, if you want to have a successful water birth, let's get you in the pool now. So much like your last labor, I realized that I cannot get into the water until I am about to push a baby out. Otherwise, it just all stops.
Yeah.
So I get in and they took a video, and I'm so thankful they did. But I was like, I was such a whiny baby this whole time, just being like, I can't do this. I don't want to push. I don't want to push. And I think a lot of it is just the fear of them being stuck. Whether or not Esther had a true dystocia, that thought lingers in my brain of they're not going to be able to come out. And pushing pushing to me is so much effort. It takes so much out of me. I hate it. I would rather give me contractions for a million hours would be easier than pushing out a baby.
Oh, a lot of people feel very differently about that.
Yes, which I'm very thankful that the longest part of labor is the easiest part for me and the shortest part is the hardest part. Like I would not trade that truly, but it is really hard. And every time I'm like, this is why people have C-sections, because pushing is really hard. So I think I pushed for 15 minutes of like real pushing, and I got him out. He came out. God got him out. I didn't do it. But
Wait, were you in the pool?
I was in the pool, and I had Wantina and her student were both helping support me. And something that made a very big difference with this time was Wantina, every time something new was being born, she told me, she's like, there's his crown, or his hair is out, he's crowning, all of these things. I had horrible acid reflux the entire pregnancy. And you always hear the midwives, like the old wives' tales, that acid reflux means you're going to have a baby with a lot of hair. Right. Well, that was true. I don't know if you saw his hair when he went back.
He had a lot of hair.
All the hair he was born with.
Wow.
Yeah. So at one point she's like, Becca, reach down and feel. His hair is touching the bottom of the pool. And so I did, and that was very encouraging. And then as time progressed, like she would be like, his forehead is out, his eyes are out, okay, thank you. His whole head is out, like he's crowned. And then she was like, his shoulders are out. So I was able to associate that my body was making progress. Like I was actually doing it. Yeah. And that was very, very helpful. So he was born at 5/19 on September 28th. He was 39 weeks, which I was not expecting to have a baby at 39 weeks. And I leaned back in the pool.
Not September.
Did I say September?
Yeah.
Sorry, April.
I was like, wait, how do we jump so far forward? April 28th.
April 28th. I'm used to saying September 26th. April 28th.
Yeah.
Yes. So April 28th, he was born 5/19. And so I was in labor for about 3 hours and 40 minutes, which was awesome. But I leaned back in the pool, put him on my chest. He did have a shorter cord than I was expecting. And Wantina grabs my knee and she's like, I want you to look in the water. So I looked down and she's like, there's no blood. And I was like, okay. And she's like, Becca, that means you didn't tear. And I was like, immediately started crying. It was like, thank you, God, I did not tear. That was like my biggest request, was that I would not tear. And the relief that I felt just hearing those words after having 2 pretty severe tears and postpartums with that, I was like on cloud 9, so happy. And that truly impacted everything about my postpartum this time, not tearing, especially a 3-degree tear. It's been night and day difference. But they end up, like, I delivered the placenta in the pool as well, and it came very quickly. And then we end up getting out of the pool and everything, and they weigh him, and he weighed 9 pounds, 6 ounces. Hey, where did this baby come from? Which I've heard bigger babies, you tear less, or women who have bigger babies have an easier time pushing, because not an easier time pushing, but pushing effectively. And I don't know what it is about that.
Because there's so much more pressure maybe with the weight.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know. But I also have big babies and I don't tear. So I'm a case for you.
That's awesome. I'm very jealous of women who don't tear, but now I get to be one of them. So yeah, he was born. I was not expecting it after, especially that soon. And I was not expecting him to be 9 pounds, 6 ounces. Um, so especially since George had been 8 pounds, I told my sister at one point, I was like, I, oh, wow. I pray that whatever I ate, I don't eat it again because that was really hard. Um, but I would not change that for anything, especially if it is true that people with bigger babies are less likely to tear. That would be, that is very awesome.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the case for me. So I don't know. But I also had a smaller baby the first time and also didn't tear. So I don't actually know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who does really know? None of us know. That's one of those secrets for God to know. Um, but yeah, he was there's a lot less to tell with him because it wasn't that hard. Like that was probably my hardest labor just because I could feel him descending the whole time. Oh my goodness. Um, wow. Yeah. So I would say that one was definitely my hardest labor. So at this point, but he's been the easiest postpartum. So much less pain. Like I stopped using a peri bottle a week into postpartum.
Wow.
I didn't even have any fissures or anything. It was that adjustment has been so much better. And I was thinking about it and I was like, my body didn't need to heal. So every time I was sleeping, I was actually sleeping. I wasn't just my body wasn't repairing itself the whole time. Like I know there were still things I needed to heal from, but not from a tear as severe as a 3rd-degree tear. So that was awesome. But I am so thankful that I had heard that podcast episode that you had done. I can't remember her name, but just feeling the freedom to pray so specifically, I think really impacted the end of my pregnancy with him. And yeah, that's the birth of all 3 of our kids.
Well, I'm so glad that, you had your second and your third story, because with your first story, I was just so like upset for you, just like hearing it. And those are the reasons like people stop having children or say like, I'm never going to do that again. And
Yeah.
which hurts. It's like tragic because you're like, oh, but it could be so much better. And I'm so glad that, you were able to make different choices, have the home births, have like the honestly more peaceful and what I believe is more of a God designed experience.
Yeah.
I'm not saying hospital birth is wrong, but I don't think it's necessarily what he had in mind when it comes to birth the majority of the time. So through all of that, what do you feel like was your biggest takeaway from the Lord?
I feel like it's different for each birth and like pregnancy process. With Esther, it's my biggest takeaway is that I should have been more honest with myself and everyone else with what I was really experiencing postpartum. I didn't know how to really explain what I was feeling, but I was lying to myself the whole time, like, oh, it's just lack of sleep. It's just lack of sleep. Like I probably should have gotten help, honestly, and I didn't. So my biggest takeaway is just that the Lord he meets you in those moments where you're not honest with yourself and you're not honest with anyone else. And he still will get you through it. And I am, as much as I hated that postpartum, I'm so thankful I had it because I do feel like that experience brought me closer to the Lord because I knew I needed him. I felt like I felt the need for him. And I could not sustain my life and her life without spending time in God's word and praying. So that's probably my biggest takeaway from that one. And then the next one is that you can feel God's presence in a birth. Like, you don't have to be afraid to feel God's presence. And I'm not like a touchy-feely person or an overly emotional person. Like, I don't cry very easily. And so when George was born, like, I really did feel the presence of the Lord, even though I got what I did not want in a 3rd-degree tear. I felt like he was actually there with me, which is not something that I experience very often. Because I think everyone experiences those things, like their relationship with the Lord, differently. I'm very thankful for that. And then with Gideon, just the power of prayer. Like, truly, I'm not saying that those things would not have happened had I not prayed for them specifically, but praying for them specifically and then seeing God grant those things, like, give me those blessings of answering those prayer requests with a yes. It encourages me to pray more specifically in other areas of my life as well.
As it should.
So, right?
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of their stories. And I pray that he has brought you this happiness, like Gideon's birth. I know you're saying you guys were going through some hard times. So I pray that, yes, the gift of a new life and blessing you guys can focus on for a while.
Thank you. Me too. It's definitely added to some of the sadness, but it's just such a joy. Like, he's not the happiest baby ever, but it is a joy to get to see new life.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for hosting this podcast. I love listening to it. I love listening to everyone's birth stories.
Oh, well, I'm glad. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week, and remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. And I also wanted to apologize as I'm saying this for yawning so much. We were up till like 1 a.m. last night.
Oh my goodness.
But it was our anniversary, and
oh, happy anniversary.
Thank you. And I had this dance group that I was teaching, and so then I got home a little bit later, and then the plan was to have dinner and milkshakes and watch our wedding video. Then I forgot that our wedding video is actually an hour and a half long. And so we didn't start it until 10:30, 10:45. And so then, but I don't know. I was just like, well, it's our anniversary, no big deal. But then once we finally went to bed, my baby was like, yeah, no, it's time to wake up and party for a while.